I want to bring our guest in now, Andrew Cummings. He's partner and head of Prime Residential at Middle East at the Knight Frank, and he joins us from Dubai. Dan also joining the conversation. It's great to have you on the program, Andrew. Just walk us through, in your view, whether or not we're going to see this evening out, a plateau, if you will. No signs of a bubble, as in past years.
No, definitely no signs of a bubble. Look, I think what we've seen is a fundamental transformation of the Dubai property market following on from COVID. We've seen a huge influx of people that wanted to come and live in Dubai, in part because of the way that the government have handled the situation. What that's led to is huge price increases, but those price increases have been localized. So in areas like the Palm Jumeirah, for example, we're seeing prices now above the last market peak in 2014. But if you look across the board at something like apartments still track around 10% below the previous market peak. So we're expected still to see some growth there. I think you're right, though. This growth isn't going to continue at the same pace. So we do expect to see a little bit of a cooling off this year. And we're predicting price growth in around the 12% year on year, which is obviously down from the rest. But that's a lot driven by some specific markets like villas and the luxury end.
You know, it's interesting, Andrew, looking at what's been happening here over the last 10 years or so, the conversation that I was having in May at Davos with some property folks was that they were seeing Russians bringing bags of money into this country, and they were putting it into real estate. What's your assessment of the spike that we've seen in that high-end real estate as a result of Russian money?
Well, look, this spike didn't start with Russian money. This spike started post the COVID pandemic. Last year, well before any crisis in Ukraine, we'd seen massive growth, and Dubai led the way with the Knight Frank Wealth Report, putting it number one in terms of growth. So this is a broader trend that's happening here, with ultra high net worths in particular relocating to Dubai because of the fantastic situation that we have. Again, I think there's a real transformation happening here. Dubai has become much more of a family location. People want to live here. And certainly post-pandemic, when people spent, say, 2 to 3 months here instead of just coming for a 2-week holiday, that's a lot of what's driven that. Of course, as I said, we've really seen that spike into villa communities. Those have gone up the most. And you've seen that globally, again, where people have moved out from smaller apartments to larger properties. You only need to look at something like London and the surrounding areas of Surrey to see the price increases we've had there. So I think that this is definitely part of a broader trend, and definitely led by the government sort of strategy towards attracting people to come and live in Dubai.
Indeed, Andrew, Dan here. Hard to disagree with a lot of your analysis, but what we have also seen is a number of trends really driving this as well, like work from home, for example, and some of the government schemes to bring people into the UAE and to keep them here, like the Golden Visa, for example. What impact would you say that has had on residential and commercial values? And at the same time, what impact do you think inflation and rising rates locally are going to have on valuations moving forward? You mentioned some kind of a pullback. How deep might it be?
Well, look, I think you're right about that. The point you made about home working, that's definitely been something that's driven a desire for larger space, a move out to the suburbs almost, people moving out to villas. So we've seen those villa prices increase. You can see on the screen there, over 20%, whereas apartments are obviously a little bit below that. What we're seeing now, though, I think, as well, is this Golden Visa situation. We've seen a big spike in the number of Indians that are looking to relocate following the changes in the rules. When you ask what type of pullback do we expect to see, we don't expect to see a pullback. I think we expect to see continued growth, albeit not quite at the same rate. Of course, high interest rates will slightly dampen the market. And in some communities, these prices do need to be cooled down a bit. Again, I mentioned the Palm Jumeirah earlier. Those prices are now substantially above the 2014 peak. So in some areas, we are definitely seeing a cooling off and a slowing of transactions, but those are definitely the minority.
Still think it's a buyer's market?
Oh, 100%. Actually, to the extent which I'm in the process of actually looking at properties to buy for myself at the moment as a family home. Again, one of the things that's driven me to that is also that rental prices have increased at the same rate as sales prices. So now a lot of tenants are looking at their rents potentially being significantly higher and saying, actually, for me, that makes more sense to buy. So I think we're going to see a robust market for the rest of the year, certainly.